What's going on, guys? This is the Illegal Defense. We're going to jump into it. First off, we have some college football that we're going to get into. A lot of big games. We're going to start off with the biggest game of the year so far in this Tennessee and Alabama game.
Yeah, and this one, game of the year type of, I would say not game of the year hype, but still some pretty big hype coming into this one. Only a 9 point spread for as Alabama as the favorite going into Knoxville, a Tennessee team that carrying over their you know progression and um, putting up big numbers and things like that, have it rolling, showing consistency really since mid last year. And yeah, this Tennessee team, man, they were ready. Their stadium was rocking.
Yeah, that
Um,
stadium was crazy.
it was just a great game, top to bottom. They Alabama comes in there, undefeated. Tennessee's undefeated going into this, and it lived up to the hype. A number 3 versus number 6 matchup. High scoring game. Uh, both teams putting up points. We saw some defense at times. We saw some teams, be effective running the ball, throwing the
Throwing
ball.
the ball
We
for
saw we
sure.
saw a little bit of everything in a tight game that turns out to be a walk off field goal at the end for Tennessee,
Yeah.
52-49. And
What a clutch drive by Hendon. You
yeah,
know, that was there is a lot of moments in that game where you just seen like all the intangibles of an NFL prospect as far as like what you would want from your quarterback. And I think Hendon Hooker showed that. Obviously Bryce Young, he picked up right where he left off as. It didn't really look like he lost much of his step, which it was good that they had him. But again, I think he got outplayed, and then on top of it, it's like that environment to play in that, and to play in that in a game that you're coming back from an injury, it's kind of like very shocking. So
yeah, definitely. The whole home field advantage certainly showed up for Tennessee. And their team, look, that was a huge, huge rivalry for many, many years that just really kind of went by the wayside because Alabama was just dominating teams and dominating Tennessee for years, where Tennessee kind of fell off and was in the dark ages, so to speak. And yeah, they get a huge win after years. Seeing the people talking and stats all over the place. Last time Tennessee beat Bama was before the iPhone came out.
that's crazy.
So yeah, just a crazy, crazy game. Great outcome for Tennessee. They celebrated hard. We saw
The whole goalpost was literally outside. That was crazy. The entire goalpost was.
yeah, they stormed the field, ripped the whole goalpost out. Goalpost ends up in the river. I mean, look, what a time to be in Knoxville. They what a great night. It kind of reminds you of like that App State victory earlier, and
Nah.
really just shows, look, that game showed everything what's good about college football: the high scoring,
Yeah,
the way
the
the
environment
offenses goes,
is.
the great environment, the field
I'm
storming, the
sure, like,
celebrations after.
yeah, I'm sure after the celebrations are probably crazy in Tennessee.
Yeah, there's no place on the world that partied harder
Right,
than
then Tennessee, because it
yeah.
was like a national champion. You just knocked off Bama
Uh,
and Nick Saban at that. It's like,
and that's a huge rivalry that they've been just losing and losing and losing. And a lot
right,
of people don't remember how big and how important that rivalry was. And, for game day to go there,
right.
Peyton Manning in the house. And
That for Peyton to see that, it's probably
yeah,
just crazy, crazy.
yeah,
It's probably nostalgic for him as well, just because the whole obviously he played there. So,
yeah.
but again, it was a great game. It was nice to see two quarterbacks really go at it. I like Hendon Hooker a lot. I think he's good, and I can see him being. I don't know if he would be like a superstar in the NFL, but I can see him being a solid quarterback in the NFL so far.
Yeah, and he certainly knows that offense front to back. I mean, look, he benefits a lot from that explosive offense that Josh Heupel runs, and he runs it to perfection. I mean, he puts up crazy numbers in it, and certainly takes advantage. Has the arm and the arm talent to make all the throws. And surprisingly enough, Tennessee comes in this game, and Alabama, threw more passing yards, 455 to 385. So and Alabama, we talked about this when they played Arkansas. Arkansas was a huge rushing team. Alabama had one of the best rushing defenses.
Right.
Tennessee comes in and runs for 182 yards on them, running for more yards than Bama in this game, right? So if you would have thought before the game that Tennessee was going to run for more yards than Bama, I mean that'll probably tell you all you need to know with the way Alabama's been able to run the ball and kind of lean on Jahmyr Gibbs as kind of their number one option this year. So
Right.
yeah, but look, like we said, a great game of the year type of game here. Something that we'll be talking about for a while and really years to come, right? A rivalry game like that finishes that way. Every year when Bama and Tennessee play each other, they're going to be
That's gonna be
flashing back to
something.
this game for
Yeah, for
years.
sure.
So yeah, amazing game, and like we said, it kind of embodies everything great about college football here. We'll move on to another game. This one in the Big Ten, another top 10 matchup with two teams. And we had number 10 Penn State go into Ann Arbor, Michigan and play the Wolverines. This had a pretty decent amount of hype around this game. Kind of the first, Big Ten matchup of the year. And it was a surprisingly close game early on, and not surprising by thinking either team couldn't keep up with each other, but really
Right.
because Michigan kind of was dominating early, and it was still a tight game. And so really, but after the half there, Michigan kind of blew the doors off and ran away with it. They committed to the run.
Right.
Penn State couldn't do anything
Yeah,
to stop it.
Michigan, I believe they had two rushers over 100 yards, and it's kind of like when you have that, we always go back to having a strong run offense and how much that can set up for you and how much that can create for your team in general, even outside of offense. If you're running the ball out, your defense is not going to be on the field as much. So that gives your defense a lot more time to get some rest, keep their legs fresh and not have so much time on the field. But again, Michigan obviously they just ran all over Penn State. It seemed like Penn State couldn't stop a nosebleed. I don't know what was going on,
They
but
I don't know what's going on with James Franklin and that staff. I mean, I've seen some people like calling for his job, which I kind of don't really agree with. I think Franklin's a pretty good coach. But in this game, I mean, Michigan ran for 418
wow,
yards against them.
that's great. Those are passing yards.
418 yards rushing, and Penn State didn't really make the adjustments to even try to stop them. You would think at some point, like, just put 8 men in the box.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just put 8 men in the box and just make them beat you by throwing. And they never really did that.
No.
And they just let Michigan run wild all over them in a huge matchup that is important when you have goals to win the Big Ten and go to a Big Ten championship game, and you take a loss to Michigan. I mean, it's kind of good luck
pretty,
now to Penn State because you still got to play Ohio State and you got to play other Big Ten teams
right.
that are decent.
Michigan State that could possibly knock them off.
Yeah, so tough loss for Penn State. I mean, both teams came into this undefeated. That loss might be all that Penn State needed to get completely set back and
Yeah,
out of the running for things. So
right. I don't think playoffs are in there.
yeah, and now when you look at Michigan, on the other hand, I mean, look, you never want to look past opponents, and we see people upset people all the time, but Michigan will be favored in every game for the rest of the year, besides the last game of the year against Ohio State,
obviously.
which we don't know what happens from now to then, but most likely Ohio State's going to be favored the way things are going. But so now Michigan is looking at a situation where they could potentially be either a one-loss or no-loss team after the regular season, here for after getting this win. So it's a huge difference and a huge turn of events for both of these teams in opposite directions. This point in like around midway through the college football season.
It was a matchup that we've been wanting to see though, because
Yeah.
it's like again the Big Ten. They're like right now we're in the stages of the season where it's like there is the only test Ohio State really had was Notre Dame. The only real test that Michigan had is this game right now against Penn State. And even Penn State, and it's kind of like we want to see more of these matchups, and I think that's also a great thing that we have USC coming into the Big Ten in a few years. So it's kind of like that would be able to mix things up a little bit more as far as like we're not going to have to watch games that aren't really matter, like games don't really matter till like later on in the year, or maybe
yeah,
like
yeah. It'll be great to have
so
that new blood to diversify things, get some
right.
bigger matchups.
And you know, I think Michigan is, I don't know if they sustain this for the rest of the season. But obviously they're in the playoff rankings now. I think they're the fourth team right now. But again, yeah, Penn State could just forget about all the playoff hopes right now. I mean, even if they win out, I really don't even. I mean, that's a slight chance as well because they have to face Ohio State. So
Yeah. Well, we'll transition. We talked about USC coming to the Big Ten. Another matchup we had here was number 7 USC going into number 20 Utah. This was probably the first real tough test for this USC team led by Lincoln Riley
Caleb Williams.
and Caleb Williams, and they go into Utah. This is turns into a shootout between both teams. Utah, they come out and they are able to get the job done at home, 43-42 win, and yeah, huge win for Utah. I mean, they had just lost to UCLA last week. That was a game I thought they were going to be able to win. UCLA, to their credit, came out and got the job done against them, but they could have easily kind of free falled here and maybe took their foot off the gas or not played as hard and given up, but they fought hard.
Yeah, they put on a show for sure.
Yeah, they put on a show, and look, people talk about Caleb Williams all the time. Cam Rising is another quarterback that look, this class of quarterbacks. We talked about Hendon Hooker. We got Bryce Young, we got C.J. Stroud,
Right.
Caleb Williams, who's really Caleb Williams is a next year guy, but still, some of these quarterbacks in college football, there's a lot of guys right now, and Cam Rising, if you follow the sport enough, he's one of them, but. That was certainly a statement game right there.
Yeah, what I liked about that game was he showed a lot of times we don't get to see resiliency in these kinds of games only because games could either be blowouts or they could be determined more so of like what the strength of the offense is. So if they're running the ball well, all right, we're gonna just give the ball to the running back, let him go to work. But Cam Rising, he had complete control of the game towards the end. He was making great throws. I mean, he was accountable for 5 touchdowns. To have 5 touchdowns, that's not easy to do. I mean, in any type of football game.
Yeah, and he threw himself, I believe it was 415 yards. Yeah, he threw for 415 yards there. So definitely like I said, a statement game. Sure. He really put up some great numbers. He kind of, everybody's watching with a big matchup like that. That's probably their biggest matchup on their schedule. I mean, you could argue Oregon as well, but between those two teams, those their two biggest matchup. He's on the national stage here. He comes out, he slings it, and they take down, the explosive offense in USC and what they're trying to build. And yeah, they were able to pull out that tough win at home.